Please be seated. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd now like to invite Mr. Chris Tobin, representative of the Darug people, to offer the traditional welcome to country. Mr. Tarab.
Thank you. Warami, and welcome to the lands of the Wallamedigal. I belong to one of the local Aboriginal families of the Darug people, the traditional custodians over this part of the country. I wish to thank the University for their acknowledgement of us and for the invitation to welcome you all here today. That acknowledgement is important for our people and much appreciated, particularly by our elders. Education is highly valued in Aboriginal culture as well. Knowledge meant survival, and our elders are traditionally accorded great respect for their accumulated wisdom and experience. My family descend from Yarramundi, a respected elder and cleverman of the Burrabarongal clan during the early years of colonisation. He saw that our survival in this new world could best be secured if we could learn more about it. As such, he enrolled his daughter Maria into the Native Institution, a school set up by Governor Macquarie himself in 1815, offering formal education to Aboriginal children. Maria studied there for several years and used her newly acquired skills to lobby and ultimately secure some land for herself and her family out along the Richmond Road. Other Aboriginal families soon joined them and became known as the Blackstown, where the present-day city of Blacktown gets its name from. We are very proud of her, as I'm sure your families are of you here this afternoon, and with good reason. Your progress progresses us all. Your advancement is our advancement. Now, that was perhaps better understood in traditional times when clan groups were smaller and abided by the strict sharing laws that existed then. It meant that the food that you brought back from camp was distributed throughout the rest of the people. Your skills and good fortune with us enjoyed by all, and your efforts literally nourished the whole community. You in turn were looked after by them. Yes, we can live quite beautifully when we get clever about it. Our Aboriginal ancestors certainly did in many respects, and I use occasions like this to offer them to yourselves as a benchmark or a model on how good to expect our lives today. You see, when Captain Cook arrived here, a little south of here, in Botany Bay 240 years ago, he described the people he encountered there as one of the happiest people he'd ever met in the world. They had nothing, he wrote, but the tools that they carried. They made shelters from the bark of trees without cutting them down. They harvested food from the earth without tilling the land. In traditional times, everyone was accorded rights to the country or clan area where he or she was born into. So there was no homelessness, and no rich and poor either. Everyone had pretty much the same amount of gear, what you can carry. There were no armies or jails, or even police. We have no history of slavery or empire building. People cooperated to collect the resources, which were then shared out according to strict Aboriginal law. Our lands were maintained in their natural state. Rivers were clean and unpolluted, with people drinking out of them as they have done here for the past 20,000 years. Now remember, this is not an ideal, this is normal life. And there is no reason why we should expect less for ourselves and our children than what our ancestors enjoyed. Admittedly, there's a lot more of us now. So we've got a lot of work to do. But I would say to you, expect great things from your lives and do great things. And together we can get this country back to the healthy, happy and just place it was once known as. We can all do our bit. Now I'll do mine by getting off and letting you good people graduate. Just want to say congratulations to all of you and all the best in our collective futures. Thank you. Welcome to country.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to introduce the Chancellor of Macquarie University, the Honourable Michael Egan. Mr. Egan.
Well, thank you, Chris Tobin, for your welcome to country. Well, graduands, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and I see we have a couple of toddlers with us this afternoon, and at least one little baby. I think I might have heard another one over there. Now, one thing is certain, little children make a noise, babies cry, and we have a hard and fast rule here. If they make a noise, you are not to take them outside. You are to stay, there's one there, see? You're to stay where you are because none of us will be bothered by the sound of a a baby crying. I was in Parliament for 25 years, so I've heard a lot worse. And in any event, we know from experience that if a child cries through a graduation ceremony or makes a noise during a graduation ceremony, within 25 years they're back to get a PhD. So no doubt these freshly minted PhDs down here wailed their way through a graduation ceremony 20 or so years ago. Well, it's my very great privilege as Chancellor of Macquarie University to preside at this ceremony today. First, let me welcome all of our graduands, and I hope this will be a very happy and a very memorable occasion for you all. Now, you'll only enjoy the day if you relax. Some of you look relaxed, but others of you look decidedly nervous. Now, there's nothing to be nervous about. I assume you've all passed your exams, so it's too late to fail. The very worst thing that can happen, and it does happen occasionally, is that you trip over on the stage and fall over. Well, that's okay, we pick you up. And we actually designate someone at each graduation ceremony who has that job, to pick you up if you fall over. And today, that's none other than the former Prime Minister of Australia, Bob Hawke. I'm sure Bob will do a great job. So graduands, enjoy the day because you deserve to take pride, great pride in your graduation. Completing a degree is never easy. You need an intelligent and inquiring mind, you need determination and perseverance, and you need to make many sacrifices. So welcome and congratulations to each and every one of you. Today I also want to welcome, and especially welcome, those of you who are sitting behind our graduands as their invited guests. Because if you think about it just for a moment, you've all obviously done very well too. The very fact that you're here, the fact that you've been invited by one of our graduands to share one of the great days of their lives is proof positive that you've been very important in their lives and in the successes that we celebrate today. So mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, cousins, sons and daughters, grandmothers and grandfathers, friends, husbands and wives, partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, lovers, or whatever you are, congratulations and thank you for celebrating this great occasion with us. And I don't want you to think either that observing today's graduation is the end of your role, because I have another important service for you to perform for our newest graduates as they'll soon become. I want you to make sure that the degrees that they receive today are never ever put in a bottom drawer, but are always proudly displayed in a position of prominence. In other words, if our graduands are too self-effacing to proclaim their own success, you make sure that you do it for them. Now, the ceremony that we're about to participate in is one of the world's oldest social rituals. For centuries, graduates have been donning robes just like the ones our graduands are wearing today and participating in ceremonies just like this one. Indeed, there are some 50 universities in the world which can trace their history back more than 500 years. Macquarie University, by comparison, is very young. We're only 49 years of age. But in those 49 years, we've come a long, long way. We now have more than 145,000 Macquarie graduates living in more than 140 countries. Macquarie is a very modern and outward-looking university. We're regarded as one of Australia's leading research universities and are currently extending our research as we are our course offerings and facilities. We're always trying to engage with the world around us. We've forged strong alliances with the community and with industry and are keen to establish more. On your way here today, you may have seen our pretty new Macquarie University Hospital, only I think not yet 3 years old, and that's used by the students and academics in our School of Advanced Medicine, which is not much older. We are the only university in Australia with its own private hospital, and it's a first-class hospital, and we're very, very proud of it. You may also have seen our new library, which I think is the envy of every university in the land, or perhaps our new advanced hearing hub, which was only opened this year, just a few months ago, and which is a world-leading institute dedicated to advances in hearing, speech and language science. So we're looking forward and we're on the move. We want Macquarie always to be a leader in teaching and learning and a leader in the accumulation of knowledge and understanding. In other words, an ideal community of scholars. And graduands, in just a few minutes, it will be my very great honour to confer your degrees upon you and welcome you as lifelong members of that community of scholars we proudly call Macquarie University. Thank you.
Chancellor, I call on Mrs Sharon Kerr, who's graduating today with a Masters of Indigenous Education, to speak on behalf of the graduating group. Mrs Kerr.
Chancellor, members of the University, fellow graduates and guests, Chris, thank you for the welcome to country. I feel quite excited standing here as the first graduate of the Masters of Indigenous Education with my Indigenous colleagues and friends here, and would like to acknowledge and pay tribute to the traditional owners, the Darug people, and pay my respects to elders past and present. Today, as graduates, we leave as different people to those who first enrolled in courses at Macquarie University. Not just for the knowledge we have gained, nor the skills we have developed, but rather for the people we have become and the responsibility that we now share to serve our communities. As graduates, we acknowledge that we are here as the result of opportunity that has been afforded to us by others. For some, it has been the sacrifice made by family. For others, it has been the encouragement of mentors. For all, however, there is the opportunity born out of the actions of the social and political warriors of the past who have believed in higher education as a human right and forged the way for us to access education. Through this opportunity, we have gained both the skills and courage to question, and the conviction of heart to advocate for truth, equity, and social justice. The Masters of Indigenous Education was the brainchild of Associate Professor Michelle Trudgett, who had the foresight and tenacity to see the need for a degree which would shine a light on the travesties endured by Indigenous populations globally. She and her learned colleagues strove to explain how education has historically been used as a blunt instrument to effect cultural genocide where languages have been lost and links to the wisdom of the ancestors broken. Furthermore, in the delivery of the course, they took the opportunity to advocate for a new future where Indigenous culture, history, knowledges, and ways of doing would be both respected and embraced by all students. They had a desire for students to gain an understanding of the role of power and politics and appreciate how agendas are set and served by those in control. They shared their narrative, their passion, and their convictions. And as we grew as people, our skills of research and inquiry were also sharpened. So to Associate Professor Trudgett, staff of Warra Warra, and those involved in the program, I say a heartfelt thank you. On behalf of my fellow graduates, to academic and professional staff here today, I say thank you. And to all who have supported us, believed in us, and saw in us hope for a better future, we say thank you. We undertake that with hearts of service, we will use this gift of education to enrich not only our own lives, but the lives of those around us. We will show courage in the face of injustice and strength when opposed by self-interest and greed. As graduates of Macquarie University, we will hold fast to the values of this university and become true global citizens. We will use our newfound skills and abilities to find creative solutions and ensure that the underserved in our community are included even when agendas set by the powerful are to the contrary. To quote Charles Colton, "The greatest friend of truth is time. Her greatest enemy is prejudice, and her constant companion is humility." So, Macquarie University, thank you for the time you have invested in us. With humility, we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon, and congratulations on, I think, an outstanding and uplifting address. I congratulate you on being the first Master of Indigenous Education at Macquarie University. When you think about it, that's a record that can never be broken. So well done, congratulations, and I hope that you maintain your association with Macquarie University for a very long time. Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen and graduands, we now come to the key part of the ceremony, the reason we're all here, that's the conferring of degrees. Now, I have to confess it's the only part of the ceremony that makes me nervous, because I'm assured that if I make a mistake and give you a degree to which you're not entitled, I can't take it back. So I need to be absolutely certain that you're all eligible and qualified to graduate today. So for that reason, we have the academic registrar here, who I ask at every graduation to give me an absolute ironclad assurance that none of you ever missed a class, that none of you ever submitted an assignment late, none of you ever broke any of the rules. So, Registrar, can you give me that assurance, please? Good.
Chancellor, I certify that all the candidates being presented here today and those that are absent have satisfied the requirements of Academic Senate for the degrees and diplomas they are to be awarded. Would all candidates for admission to degrees and diplomas please stand?
That's you. Well, graduands, in the name of the Council of Macquarie University and by my authority as Chancellor, I admit each of you present and those who are absent to the degrees or diplomas for which you have qualified. Graduates, congratulations.
Please be seated. Chancellor, the graduates at this ceremony are from the Faculty of Arts. Students and staff in this faculty work together within and across disciplinary boundaries to ask questions about socially complex problems, identify paths of research, analyse and communicate ideas in creative formats, and reflect on the skills and knowledge they will need to understand the world, past and present. Students are encouraged to use their skills and talents to connect with local and global communities. This faculty includes research and study areas in ancient history, anthropology, English, Indigenous studies, international studies, law, media, music, communication and cultural studies, modern history, politics, international relations, philosophy, sociology, and policing and intelligence and counter-terrorism. Chancellor, I now call on Professor John Simons, the Executive Dean of the Faculty of Arts, to present the graduates and diplomates. Professor Simons.
Chancellor, I present to you the graduates and diplomates from the Faculty of Arts whom you have admitted to degrees. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Dr. Vanessa Julia Fredericks for a thesis entitled Narrating Katyn, Remembering the Event Through Myth, Memory and Justice. Dr. Hao Reng Hung for a thesis entitled Cultural Survival, Indigenous Knowledge and Relational Sustainability, a comparison of case studies in Taiwan and Australia. Dr. Cha Shin Lin for a thesis entitled Social Media Politics, the Use of Facebook in the 2012 Taiwan Presidential Election. Dr. Damien Liu Brennan for a thesis entitled Edo no Hanabi, the Japanese observance of fire flowers and the birth of a distinct seasonal fireworks culture. Fantastic. Dr. Anthony Emmanuel Manatti, who has been awarded the Vice-Chancellor's Commendation for a thesis entitled Persona and Authenticity in the War Reporting Memoir. Dr. Alec Dennis Morgan for a thesis entitled Crossing Fire and Water, the Evolution of Narrative Structures in Contemporary Film Practices. Dr. Michelle Lee Robertson for a thesis entitled Female Characters in Turkish-German Cinematic Space, an analysis with examples of 3 recent films. Dr. Suzanne Schuster for a thesis entitled Commitment in Learning Plans, Fostering Learner Autonomy in the Second Language Classroom and Beyond. Dr. Catherine Sarah Wright, who has been awarded the Vice-Chancellor's Commendation for a thesis entitled Cross-Kingdom Encounters, Journeys to the New England Tablelands. Dr. Weiwei Zhu for a thesis entitled From Elitist to Plebeian, Cosmopolitanism in V.S. Nepal's Fiction. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Arts with the Master of International Relations, Heather Kate McIntosh. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Applied Anthropology, Suzanne Dioka. Sarah Farsad. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Arts, Angela Claire Anzanopoulos. Sarah Jane Belcher. Christine Del Rosario. Emma Christine Edwards. Marjorie Ann Green. Lisa Dawn White, who has been awarded the Vice-Chancellor's Commendation for Academic Excellence. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Indigenous Education, Sharon Ann Kerr. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of International Communications, Lu Lee. Fiona Isir Mange. Jia Chi Pan. Yang Peng. Nicholas Anthony Robert Rodriguez. Su Su. Yu Xiao Zhu. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of International Relations, Eugene Chang. I present the graduate admitted to the Honours degree of Bachelor of Arts, Joel O'Brien. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Jessica Ainsworth. Jeremy Azzopardi. Jennifer Buen Consenjo. Charmaine Gloria Kajukom. Joshua Eli Castronova. Sarah Shalala. Margaret Sancha Conway. Simon Cowman. Elise Cullen. Ching Yue Deng. Maria Glintine Alexandra Diane Charlotte Diet. Alice Dalton. Thomas Elsterman. Linda Altabar. James Galvin. Hui Liang Ge. Vanessa Giampretro. Charlotte Marie Goodwin. Bridget Farrer Green. Onur Gula. Mary Margaret Jimmer. Chan Chan Han. Stella Hartanto. Dale Hastings. Dawn Maureen Hedge. Tini Hon. Rex Chi Chung Xiao. Hun Yang Tu Tam. Idana Isabel Hamura. James Lionel Jarrett. Yi Bei Jin. Sarah Lagana. Chuk Lok Charlotte Lai. Sean William Bertulfo Law. Tamar Bethany Lawson. Deanna Lee. Hui Ying Shirin Lee. Mei Ni Lee. Onyi Liu. Ziyi Liu. Pak Yin Lo. Daniel Leon Luizos. Thomas Lloyd Mangan. David William May. Melinda. Georgia Claire Meredith. Alexander David Montefiore. Andrew Peter Morgan. Benjamin Murray. Juliana Neary. Todd James Newton. Motong New. Georgina Norton-Smith. Boaz Nothman. Ryoko Ofusa. Yu Ota. Jeremy Mark Page. Boya Peng. Lisa Michelle Pizarro. Georgina Rose Pryor. Monica Purcell. Yu Chen Chi. Thomas Roach. Julia Grace Roscoe. Zoe Rosen. Jessica Lauren Rufus. Hannah Olivia Sampson. Anna Philippa Serra Souza. Amanda Siham Simpson. Rumpon Suntara. Anthony Jacob Teasdale. Ryo Togashi. Carlotta Vittori. Ying Wan. Jue Wang. Lee Kate Warnaker. Rosemary Anna Victoria Warner. Alison Williams. Samuel J. Wotherspoon. Bingjie She. Guang Yang. Chu Chan Yin. Bing Yang Zhang. Wen Zhang. Meng Na Zhu. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Arts Media, Lillian Jean Armstrong. Marco Barbera. Rowena Barrera. Diana Kalich. Kevin Woon Yuk Chan. James Martin Cross. Marnie Danielle Dixon. Thomas Eddington Ellen. Chloe Jessica Fisher. Stephanie Justine Harcombe. Catherine Elise Harvey. Madeline Claire Hoskin. Amy Cosette Lever. William Arthur Montgomery. Stephanie Musgrave. Joanna Lynn Smith. Eleanor Rose Stokes. Rachel Hui Min Yi. Shi Yu Yan. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Creative Arts, International Studies, Madeline Priestley. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Bachelor of International Studies, Yolanda Marie Tejakusuma. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Social Science, Matthew Campbell Gale. Ricky Lamb. Larissa Brooke Lego. Dania Menon. I present diplomates awarded the Diploma in Languages, Hebat Allah Mani. Christy Macready. I present the diplomate awarded the Diploma of Languages, Fidelina Maria Cooper. Chancellor, that completes this afternoon's presentation of the graduates from the Faculty of Arts.
Well, no, that wasn't too bad, was it? That glorious voice, ladies and gentlemen, belongs to Angela Brewer. Would you like to hear Angela sing just a little bit more? Okay, it's very easy. You enrol in another degree and come back, and I'll make sure she's singing at your next graduation as well. I think she deserves another great round of applause. And so do our musicians, our organist, Dr. James Forsyth over there. And on the Chinese flute, Mr. Chai Chang Ning. And sitting over there near them, and I think a couple over here, we have our alumni volunteers who come along to many of our graduations, in fact most of them. We have a lot, we have 46 a year this year, and they come along to make sure that everything goes smoothly at your graduation. I think they deserve a great round of applause too. Well, graduates and ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure at today's ceremony to honour, in accordance with the resolution of the University Council, the Honourable Bob Hawke for admission to the degree of Doctor of Letters Honoris Causa of Macquarie University. I now invite Professor Bruce Doughton to read the citation. Professor Doughton.
I invite the Honourable Bob Hawke to stand for the citation. Chancellor, it is my distinct pleasure to present the Honourable Robert James Lee Hawke, Companion of the Order of Australia and this country's longest-serving Labor Prime Minister. Following time as a Rhodes Scholar, Mr Hawke made his name as a future political leader while President of the Australian Council of Trade Unions between 1970 and 1980. In this role, he earned wide respect for his considerable expertise across a range of activities, including wage setting and his ability to resolve industrial issues rather than instigate them, for his powers of persuasion and negotiation, and his ability, indeed, to build consensus. These strengths in the industrial arena made Mr Hawke extremely popular with the Australian people. Despite not yet being in the Parliament, he topped an opinion poll for preferred Prime Ministership, his popularity far exceeding that of contemporarily elected political leaders. Mr Hawke won federal election in 1983 with a landslide victory, despite a campaign of just 4 weeks. And he reinforced his entry into elected office with election wins in 1984, 1987 and 1990. Mr Hawke's 8 years in office proved his first election slogan, "Bringing Australia Together," was simply not rhetoric. Under his leadership, the government undertook systematic economic reforms achieved by bringing together unions and employer organisations. Other achievements of the Hawke government included improved financial assistance to low-income families, the introduction of Medicare, the integration of employment, education and training, and achieving agreement with the states on a single-gauge national rail system. Greater environmental protections and improved human rights for Indigenous Australians were also achieved during this era. But the key enduring legacy of Mr Hawke's Prime Ministership of Australia was microeconomic reform, which redefined the role of trade unions and opened up Australian finance and industry to global competition. Chancellor, it is with extraordinary pleasure that I present to you the Honourable Bob Hawke for the award of the degree Doctor of Letters Honoris Causa.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me enormous pleasure now to invite Dr. Hawke to give the occasional address. Please welcome Dr. Hawke.
Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, members of the University, graduates and guests one and all. May I, of course, at the outset, most sincerely thank the Council for its resolution to award me admission to the degree of Doctor of Letters honoris causa of Macquarie University. A great honour from a great university. Now, my friends, as a result of the most brilliant decision of my whole career, my choice of parents, education has been a fundamentally important ingredient and element of whatever success I have been able to enjoy in life. Born with a few brains, I was able to secure scholarships through secondary school and 3 successive universities: the University of Western Australia, Oxford University and the Australian National University. It is now exactly 66 years since, in 1947, I commenced the first year of a law degree at the University of Western Australia. The great good fortune I then enjoyed of exposure to a university education did not fully come home to me until in 1958 I accepted the invitation of the Australian Council of Trade Unions to accept the position of research officer and advocate with them. And so by then, when I accepted that offer in 1958, I had enjoyed 11 successive years in a stimulating university environment. What struck me more than anything else when I joined the ACTU was the large number of men. Now, I say men because in those unenlightened days, we didn't have women trade union officials. But what struck me then when I went to the ACTU in 1958 was this large number of men of outstanding ability serving the movement, who, because of the financial circumstances of their family in their childhood days, had not been able to undertake a full development of their educational abilities. And none of them virtually had completed even a secondary education. These were men, my friends, who, if they had been given the chance, had the intrinsic intellectual capacity to have become doctors, lawyers, bankers, architects, you name it. They were extraordinarily generous to me in sharing with me their extensive practical knowledge and experience, providing me with an invaluable supplement to my academic background. They could not have been more generous. There was no suggestion of jealousy that they hadn't had this opportunity. They were fully outgoing, and they added very considerably, I can tell you, to my education. Now, so deeply did this fact of seeing these men with a capacity of being anything professionally, but having been denied it for financial reasons, so deeply did this impress itself upon my mind that I made a commitment to myself then and there that if I ever came to a position of power where it was possible to create equality of opportunity in education in this country, a situation where whether a boy or girl completed secondary school and went on to university depended on their talent and their desire and not the size of the parental wallet, I made a commitment then that if I ever had that opportunity to correct the inequity that existed, that this would be a priority with me. That opportunity came in 1983 when I was elected Prime Minister. And I say unashamedly that one of the achievements of my government, of which I am most proud, is the dramatic change we made in this regard. From a pitiably low retention rate, and retention rate simply is the proportion of young people in the secondary school who complete their secondary education, from a pitiably low retention rate of less than 30% when I came to office in 1983. We lifted this by specifically means-tested educational grants to the order of 70% by the early 1990s. Now, my friends, I've spent some time on these matters in the hope that those of you graduating today, and my congratulations go to you, but I'm saying these things in the hope that today you will fully realise how fortunate you are. No doubt you do have a sense of obligation to parents, to school teachers and others who have helped you in reaching this very important stage in your life. But I do ask particularly for you to remember the debt that you owe to this great institution, Macquarie University. Governments do not have unlimited financial resources, and as yet, the concept of substantial private philanthropic contributions to educational institutions has not developed in Australia as it has, for instance, in the United States. So I'm sure, Chancellor and Vice-Chancellor, that you would be delighted if these latest graduates were to make a mental commitment now to support Macquarie in whatever way you are able to in the future. And I ask you to make that commitment now. As the background, Chancellor, to your generous award to me as my career in politics, it is perhaps appropriate that I should say something in closing about the concern I feel regarding what I see as a growing cynicism, even contempt, within the community for Parliament, parliamentarians and the parliamentary process. Let me hasten to emphasise that I'm not speaking in any partisan sense, for both the major sides of the political divide in this country are to blame for this dangerous tendency which is emerging. The basic problem, I believe, is that Parliament is essentially a charade. Whichever party is in power, the decisions are made in the government party rooms, and the ensuing debates in the parliamentary chambers, in the House of Representatives and in the Senate are, as I say, essentially charades. And this, my friends, is why I never really enjoyed Parliament, because I had been accustomed to advocacy before arbitration tribunals, where outcomes depended on the quality of debate. So I would like to make a suggestion as to how this reality and the ensuing public perception of the parliamentary process may be changed for the better. I would suggest that our new Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, I congratulate him on his very comprehensive victory, I would suggest that Tony should sit down with the new Labor leader, when elected, and say, look, there is a number of issues on which legislation is required, but neither of us can honestly assert that we necessarily have all the right answers. Let us introduce draft legislation. There will be no caucusing on either side, and we undertake to abide by the outcome of the vote of the Parliament. Now, I believe that this would not only have the benefit of substantially lifting the quality of performance in the House and the Senate, it would also enhance very significantly, I think, the relationship between the Member of Parliament and the electorate, because he or she, the member, would know that in those circumstances it was very important to understand the thinking and attitude of the electorate on the issue under debate. And finally, to you, the 2013 graduates of Macquarie University, I urge you to take an active part in the democratic process. Think about becoming a member of the majority of the party that most reflects your inclinations. I'm not putting out a plea for you to join the Labor Party. You'll all have different inclinations. Think about it and think about joining the party, but that best reflects the sort of things you believe in. Get involved in the issues of contemporary political relevance, for it is now the fact that you are very well equipped to help advance the quality of those debates. I conclude by saying this to you, congratulating you again, and saying that our collective society has contributed in so many ways to creating the exciting opportunities that lay ahead of you as graduates from this great institution. My message, I repeat therefore, is to remember your debt to society, to this university, and to do your best to help repay them both. Thank you.
Well, graduates and ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'll agree that we've been very privileged and honoured today to have an occasional address, and a great occasional address from a really great Australian. I've got to say, as someone who spent 25 years in Parliament, I agree entirely with Bob's comments about the need to make Parliament relevant again. I have to tell you that perhaps the best speech I ever made in Parliament was to an audience of zero. There was the Speaker sitting in the chair and just me. Gee, it was a great speech, but nobody heard it. And Bob started off with an excellent point too. The best decision any of us ever make in our lives is our choice of parents, and of course it's something we have nothing to do with. But just imagine how you'd be, where you'd be in life, what sort of life you'd live if you were born in a different era, in a different society, to different parents. We are all very, very lucky, and we owe an enormous debt, not only to our families, but to society in general. The fact that we have universities, the fact that we have great schools, the fact that we have good health services, the fact that we have decent infrastructure, the fact that we have great institutions and great values is something that we've inherited from others. And of course, Prime Ministers are very important in that, governments are very important, and I'm sure that the government of Bob Hawke will go down in history as one of the great all-time governments in Australia, and I've been really delighted today to have him as our guest here and as our occasional speaker. Let's give him another round of applause. He forgot to tell you one thing, and I'm surprised that the Vice-Chancellor didn't mention it in his citation, because even though he's got 3 degrees from 3 prestigious universities, it doesn't all have to be hard work at university. Bob, of course, too, held 2 beer drinking records at Oxford, one of which still survives. Well done, Bob. Well, graduates, this ceremony marks the end of one stage in your relationship with Macquarie University, but it's certainly not the end of your association with Macquarie. From today on, for the rest of your lives, you are part of the bigger Macquarie family, which is our alumni, and part of the network of Macquarie alumni, which now spans the globe. We'll keep in touch with you through our alumni program, which is focused on lifelong learning, lifelong support, and lifelong connections. Our commitment to you is to help you keep in touch and engaged with Macquarie throughout your life. And please do make sure that you come back to Macquarie, either to undertake more study, to attend alumni events, or perhaps use our aquatic and fitness facilities. And by the way, just because you've got one PhD doesn't mean you can't come back and do another one. So we'd love to see you come back. Well, graduates, the award of a university degree carries many opportunities and privileges, but like all privileges, it also carries responsibilities. Believe it or not, you, Each and every one of you can change the world. You don't have to be a Nobel Prize winner either to do it, because almost everything you do, in your homes, in your workplaces and in your communities, matters and can make a huge difference. The consequences of every effort, every action, large or small, can reverberate throughout society, through the decades, indeed the centuries. Even something as simple as a kind word or gesture can often be the spark that ignites a great life or a great career or a great achievement. So today, as Chancellor of Macquarie University, I charge you to use what you have learned, not only for your own benefit, but also for the betterment of the community. I charge you to use the skills and knowledge you have acquired with rigour and integrity, and to commit yourselves to a program of lifelong learning and inquiry. I charge you to recognise the worth and dignity of all people, particularly those who have not had the opportunities that you have enjoyed. I charge you to set high goals and to continue the hard work that has brought you so far. I charge you, wherever you go, to go with all your heart. And in all you do, I charge you to uphold the good name of Macquarie University. Now, graduates, I hope that you'll also always remember the people who have helped you along the way, many of whom, of course, are here with you today to help you celebrate. So to acknowledge their contribution and to thank them for it, I'm now, graduates, going to ask you to do a couple of things. Could you please now stand? I'd like you to put your degrees on the seats behind you so that your hands are free. And I want you to turn around to face your families and friends. And now I want you to give them a mighty round of applause. Well, graduates, you can turn around now, but please don't sit down because we'll be leaving in just a moment. Here on the dais are also some people I'm sure you'd like to thank, and they're the representatives of our academic staff who have supported you throughout your journey. Please join me in thanking them. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the official party will now leave the graduation hall through the centre aisle, and we will be followed by all of the graduates. I would now invite everyone to please stand. And please remain standing until the last of the graduates have processed out. And then I invite you to join us in the marquee overlooking the lake for some light refreshments. Well, graduates, I wish you the very best for the future. And in the words of the old Irish blessing, may the road rise up to meet you, may the wind always be at your back, may the sun shine warm upon your face and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you and good luck.